right, ready to dive into something kind of fascinating.
Yeah, hit me.
Beauty.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. And we've got some excerpts from a book called Why Beauty Matters, a scientific approach to aesthetics.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah.
it's really making me rethink a few things, like what beauty really is, why it even matters to us, how it affects us, all that.
Right.
There's a whole scientific side to this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it goes way beyond that whole beauty is in the eye of the beholder thing.
Oh, I know that saying gets thrown around constantly, but this book,
Yeah.
well, it dives into the evolutionary roots of beauty. It's suggesting that maybe, just maybe, it's not as subjective as we tend to think.
Okay, so like what kind of examples are we talking about here?
For instance, symmetrical faces. Those are considered attractive pretty much across all cultures.
Okay, I'll buy that. Symmetrical faces, yeah, they tend to look good. But why though?
Well, think back to our ancestors.
Okay, yeah.
Symmetry. It often indicates good health, strong genes, and way back then they didn't have doctors or genetic tests or anything like that, so they relied on what they could see.
Oh, that makes sense.
So someone with a symmetrical face, they were probably more likely to be healthy, and, that made them a more appealing potential mate.
So you're saying that our brains are like hardwired to find certain things attractive because thousands of years ago, those features were basically a sign of good health and better chances of survival.
Exactly, and it's not just facial symmetry either.
Oh, really?
Nope, there's more. Clear skin.
Oh, yeah.
That was another biggie. It signaled good health. And, well, back then, good health was crucial for survival, obviously, and passing on your genes to the next generation.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So it's really not just about being like superficial or shallow. It's like these preferences are deeply ingrained in our biology.
Exactly. It's amazing how these preferences, they might seem so simple, but they have these deep, deep evolutionary roots.
Yeah, it's like our attraction is shaped by what helped our ancestors survive, and we've just inherited those preferences.
Hey, it's pretty fascinating, isn't it?
It is. Another thing that gets me is how much beauty standards change over time. Like, the book mentions how in ancient Egypt, everyone was rocking that heavy, dramatic eyeliner look.
Right. The Egyptians.
It wasn't just for looks, was it?
No, not at all. They actually used it to protect their eyes from the desert sun.
That's so cool. It's like beauty and practicality all rolled into one.
Exactly. And there are tons of examples like that throughout history. Like, how plumpness was considered super attractive in the 16th century?
Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Well, back then, it was a sign of wealth and abundance. Those were obviously desirable traits.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But today, in a lot of Western societies, it's kind of the opposite, isn't it? A slimmer figure is often seen as the ideal.
Right.
It just goes to show that beauty isn't some fixed concept. It's fluid, always evolving. And what's in today could be totally out tomorrow. So what does that tell us about how we see beauty today?
Well, for one thing, it shows just how much culture and societal norms influence our perceptions of beauty.
Makes sense.
And we also can't ignore this concept of the male gaze. It plays a huge role in shaping beauty standards, too.
Okay, that's a big one. And yeah, the book doesn't shy away from that at all. It talks about how the perspective of men has really shaped beauty standards in art, in the media, and even just in society in general.
Absolutely. It's like society is constantly sending messages to women, telling them they need to look a certain way to be considered beautiful or valuable.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff, for sure. But it's definitely something we need to talk about.
It is, and it's something we need to be aware of. Because it's not just a historical thing. This male gaze, it's still very much present today. Just look at advertising, films, even social media.
It's everywhere. So it's like there's this unspoken pressure on women to conform to this certain look that's considered desirable by men.
Exactly. And that raises some big questions. How does this impact our own perception? Are we unconsciously subscribing to standards that are perpetuated by this male gaze? It's something to think about.
Definitely a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
And speaking of influence, we can't forget about social media. I mean, it feels like beauty standards are changing faster than ever because of platforms like Instagram and TikTok.
Oh, absolutely. Social media has a huge impact. In fact, the book points out this pretty shocking statistic. The average woman, she spends something like $15,000 on beauty products in her lifetime.
Whoa, $15,000. That's crazy.
Right. It really shows you the power of the beauty industry and how social media just fuels this desire for the latest products and trends.
It's like a never-ending cycle, always chasing the next big thing.
And then you have those perfectly filtered and edited photos everywhere you look.
Oh yeah, but there's...
It creates such an unrealistic standard of beauty, and it can be really, really damaging to self-esteem. It's hard not to compare yourself to those images, even when you know they're not real.
It's almost impossible. So, where do we go from here? I mean, how do we deal with all of this? These ever-changing beauty standards, the pressures from social media. How do we navigate it all?
Well, I think the key is to remember that beauty is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It's diverse, it's subjective, and it's constantly evolving.
Right, it's not like there's one right answer.
Exactly. So maybe, just maybe, the answer is to define beauty for ourselves on our own terms, rather than letting society or the media or anyone else tell us what we should find beautiful.
I like that. But it's definitely easier said than done, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's so much pressure to conform.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore all that.
But that's why the book also puts a lot of emphasis on inner beauty. It's not just about how you look on the outside, it's about character, intelligence, kindness, all of those things that make a person truly attractive, way beyond just their physical appearance.
Okay, I hear you. But sometimes inner beauty, it just feels like this cheesy cliche. Does the book go deeper than that? Like, is there any real evidence that inner beauty matters?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just some feel-good concept. The book actually delves into the science behind it.
Wow.
Yeah, there are studies that actually show that kindness and intelligence, they're rated as more attractive over the long term, even more so than just looks.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So it's not just about a pretty face, it's really about the whole package.
You got it. And the book even uses the example of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
Now, he wasn't considered traditionally attractive, right?
Yeah.
But he was incredibly charismatic, influential. His inner qualities just shone through and made him captivating.
I like that. It really shows that true beauty goes way beyond just physical appearance. It's about character, intelligence,
Yeah.
and ultimately how we treat each other.
Exactly.
So we've talked about how our biology and evolution kind of play a role in what we find attractive. But what about the cultural side of things? Like how beauty standards have changed over time. I mean, the book dives into that whole historical context.
It totally does. It's like, taking a trip through time and seeing how beauty was viewed in different societies throughout history.
Cool, like what?
Well, for example, in ancient Egypt,
Yeah.
a slender, symmetrical figure. That was the ideal, the gold standard, because
Right.
it was linked to royalty and divinity.
Makes sense. So it wasn't just about looks, it was tied to social status and their beliefs.
Exactly. Beauty standards were really a reflection of the values and beliefs of that time.
That's fascinating.
And that link between beauty and power, it's pretty much a constant theme throughout history. Take the Renaissance, for instance. A full-figured woman, she was considered beautiful because it symbolized wealth and abundance.
Ah, right. It's like those classic Renaissance paintings we see. Those women, let's just say they weren't exactly worried about fitting into today's skinny jeans.
Totally. But back then, it was a sign that they were well-fed, prosperous,
Oh.
totally different beauty standards.
It's interesting, right? Like how throughout history, beauty standards have been tied to things like social and economic factors.
Oh, absolutely. And then, of course, you have Queen Elizabeth I. She was famous for using cosmetics to get that super pale complexion.
Oh, yeah, the pale look.
Back then, it was a major status symbol because it meant you didn't have to work outdoors in the sun.
So basically, she was using makeup to literally paint herself as powerful.
Ah.
That's wild.
Right. But then we get this shift towards the slimmer ideal, which is what we often see today. When did that happen?
Yeah, when did things change?
Well, the Industrial Revolution was a big turning point. Mass production took off, and beauty became much more accessible to everyday people. Cosmetics, fashion, hygiene products, they were suddenly available to everyone. So it led to this kind of democratization of beauty, you could say.
So instead of beauty being just for the elite, it became
Mhm.
something more attainable for everyone.
Exactly. And as new technologies popped up and trends changed, beauty standards kept evolving, right?
Right.
Which, of course, brings us to today. And we can't talk about beauty standards without talking about the impact of social media. I mean, the book goes into this in depth.
Oh, it definitely does. And I gotta say, it feels like social media has accelerated the pace of change when it comes to beauty standards. Like, trends come and go so fast, it's hard to keep up.
I know, right? It's like a whirlwind.
Right.
1 minute, it's all about one look, and the next, it's something totally different. And it can be so overwhelming.
It really can. And the book talks about this, right? About the potential downsides of social media, particularly for younger people who are bombarded with all these images.
Absolutely. The book raises some really important concerns about the impact on body image and self-esteem, because it's easy to get caught up in the comparison game when you're constantly seeing these seemingly perfect people.
Right. Like you're constantly being told you're not good enough because you don't have the perfect this or the perfect that.
Exactly. And it's hard to remember that those perfectly filtered and edited photos, they don't usually reflect reality.
No, they don't. But it's so easy to get sucked in.
Right. And so it creates this unattainable ideal that can be super damaging.
Yeah. So with all this in mind, I mean, Where do we go from here? How do we even start to break free from these unrealistic beauty standards?
It's a tough question, right?
It is.
But the book suggests that it begins with awareness. We need to start being more critical of the messages that we're taking in from the media and the beauty industry.
So it's like not just passively accepting everything we see, but actually questioning it.
Exactly. Ask yourself, is this making me feel good? Does this align with my own values, my own perception of beauty?
It's about reclaiming control, right? Defining beauty on our own terms.
Exactly. And this is where the concept of inner beauty comes in. The book makes a really strong case that true beauty goes way beyond just physical appearance.
Right. It's about those qualities that make a person truly attractive beyond just their looks like character, kindness, intelligence.
Exactly. All those things that make someone beautiful from the inside out.
You know, sometimes I think we hear that phrase inner beauty and it just feels kind of cliche, like it's a nice sentiment, but does it really matter?
It absolutely matters. And the book actually dives into the science behind it.
You really?
Yeah. There are studies that show that kindness and intelligence are rated as more attractive qualities in the long run, even more so than just looks.
Wow, that's amazing. So it's not just a nice saying, there's scientific evidence to support it. It's about the whole package, not just a pretty face.
Exactly. And think about the people you truly admire. Are they the ones with perfect features? Or are they the ones with a kind heart, a sharp mind, and a strong character?
You're so right. The people who really make a difference are the ones with substance, those who radiate something deeper than just surface beauty.
And those qualities, unlike passing trends, they last.
Right. They're what truly makes us memorable, what makes us stand out.
The book even uses the example of Abraham Lincoln. Now, he wasn't conventionally attractive, right? But he was incredibly charismatic and intelligent, compassionate. Those inner qualities, they made him a powerful and influential leader.
That's a great point. It really shows how true beauty goes way beyond physical appearance. It's that combination of qualities that makes someone magnetic, what makes people gravitate toward them.
And those qualities, they're timeless. They're what really makes us shine.
This whole conversation is making me think about how much we've been conditioned to focus on outward appearances. And it's like we've forgotten about the importance of inner beauty.
It's true. It's easy to get caught up in all the external stuff.
But what I'm hearing from you is that inner beauty is what really matters.
Yeah.
It's what makes us authentically attractive and leaves a lasting impact.
Exactly.
So how do we cultivate this inner beauty? How do we tap into those qualities that make us truly shine?
It's about shifting our focus, remembering that there's so much more to a person than meets the eye.
Right. It's about appreciating the whole person.
Exactly. And speaking of looking deeper, the book takes us on this really fascinating exploration of how beauty intersects with morality.
Beauty and morality.
Yeah.
Now that's an interesting combination.
It is, isn't it? Like, we often associate beauty with goodness, but is there actually a real connection there?
It's a question that's been pondered for ages. I mean, even philosophers like Plato argued that beauty is a reflection of truth and goodness.
Exactly. And the book digs into whether there's any actual scientific evidence to support that idea.
So what does the book say?
Well, it looks at studies that suggest there's a link, a connection between physical attractiveness and perceived trustworthiness.
Wait, are you saying that we're more inclined to trust someone just because they're good looking?
Well, the research does seem to point to a subconscious bias. Like, we tend to automatically see attractive people as more honest, more reliable, even more intelligent, and we do it without even realizing it.
Wow, that's kind of a scary thought. It's like our brains are tricking us into judging people based on how they look instead of who they really are.
It's true, and these biases, they can have some pretty big real-world consequences, especially in areas like, the legal system.
Oh yeah, where fairness and objectivity are so important.
Exactly.
The book actually brings up a case where this attractive woman was acquitted of theft charges. And the author suggests that it was because the jury just couldn't believe that someone who looked like that could actually be a criminal.
It's like her appearance created this, halo effect that made her seem innocent.
Right. It just goes to show how these unconscious biases can influence our perceptions and our judgments, even when we should be focusing on facts and evidence.
It's a powerful reminder that we all have these biases, and the first step is recognizing them.
So true. And once we acknowledge them, then we can start to, make a conscious effort to look beyond appearances and evaluate people fairly based on their character, their actions.
Exact. True beauty is so much more than just what's on the surface.
It's about those deeper qualities, like integrity, compassion, empathy.
Right. It's about how we treat others, the kind of person we are on the inside.
It's about recognizing that true beauty is about making good choices. contributing something positive to the world, striving to be a good person.
And those qualities, they really are what matter most in the long run.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the fascinating world of beauty. We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we? From the science to the history, the societal impact, and even the surprising connection between beauty and morality.
It's been an amazing journey. We've challenged some assumptions, debunked some myths, and hopefully given you a fresh perspective on this complex topic.
And if you want to keep exploring this, we highly, highly recommend checking out the book that inspired our conversation, Why Beauty Matters: A Scientific Approach to Aesthetics.
It's available on Amazon Kindle and Google Play Books, and it will definitely give you lots to think about.
Until next time, fellow deep divers, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep discovering all the beauty that surrounds us, both inside and out.